Welcome to Book Club for Movies, everybody, for the week of October 3rd. I'm Ryan Miller, and he's all going to the World Fair with us, Matt Amber.
I'm the Wiener!
Wiener!
Welcome to my favorite time of the year.
Octoberween!
Yeah.
Seriously, you live all year for this, don't you? Don't you?
It's what I do. I just survive, and then I die, and I go into some kind of an awful... Like, there's two parts of me. There's you get one part of me that like hibernates for most of the year, and then you get the other part of me that's basically the same, but talks about penises more.
So all of the wieners, thank you, all of the wieners that you watch leading up to actual Octoberween are basically just like priming the pump, or what are we? Is it just
they're prepper wieners?
We did not plan that out.
Nope.
We don't plan any of this out. On Book Club for Movies, where we watch one movie a week. I guess that we kind of plan out. And then we talk about it, also kind of plan that out.
Okay.
If you want to join the conversation, you can. We have no plans for that.
I mean, we do, but...
Yeah.
But you got to give us money to tell us, or wait, to find
respond. Out. Yeah, it's great. Oh, yeah, you can go to Patreon also.
That's the one.
Facebook and Twitter and bookclubformovies.com and podcast for movies at bookclub.gov.
This is definitely a show we want to promote and give to new listeners and new viewers.
You're right.
Unedited. So continue with this nonsense that won't get us anything.
Octoberween is the original themed month that we came up with for anybody that's any hangers-on from August or July Kwando. I knew there was another one. We're going over the deep end on the themed month things, but
it's been really fun though.
It's been absolutely great. That's why I say any hangers on, because August was just our best month yet on YouTube. Anyways, again, haven't looked at the actual podcast numbers, but because really podcast analytics are just a mixed bag at best, let me tell you.
I'm finding the word analytics to be a mixed bag.
Sure. Yeah, no, I am like Tobias.
Oh, and like Tobias. Yes, analytics does spell out anal and then like Tobias. Those are the analytics. Anal like Tobias.
Yeah, he's one of the most famous analrapists that's ever been. Analytical therapist. Was it? Analysis? I don't know what the first one was for, but... Actually, I do.
I'm glad that we have, it's been a couple of shows since we've mentioned Arrested Development. Mm-hmm. So Octoberween does seem like the time where Arrested Development should take place, both visually from the, Michael Cera weird way, and also from your internal self of arrest the development to take yourself back into childhood and be afraid for a little bit. Maybe not today, because it was really more of an art movie. I wanted to go way different today with today's movie.
Yeah. Oh, the movie you say. Yeah.
But continue with Octoberwieners. Continue with explaining Octoberween. And everything. I interrupted, and I give it back to you, tossing it back.
Octoberween, I feel like, is one of the most self-explanatory little months that we do, whereas I guess Noirvember, if that happens, will be somewhere along those lines too. You don't have to ask much. We do October, like Halloween-like movies for the month. This week, we're all going to the World's Fair. Matt has brought this to the table. He typically brings all of the Octoberwieners to the table.
Yeah, let me note here real quick for you.
Okay.
For all that often Octoberween is it's really more a ploy for me to get Ryan to watch horror movies because he doesn't typically do it. So this is my way of forcing him into like a full month of, oh man, I can throw some things at him that maybe the rest of the year don't exactly fit any time that like it's just not good. You're not going to feel it. In the middle of summer, maybe you don't want to watch, but I don't know.
Yeah, define typically. Because I don't reach your level, certainly, but I don't have necessarily an aversion.
No, I'm just saying, like, you don't seek out the most obscure crap and just you don't watch. You are not the connoisseur that I claim to be.
It's true. No,
and
it's
I am not
true.
A connoisseur. I just like to watch a lot of them. But I whatever the word connoisseur means, it seems like a good thing. I'm not that. I'm below it. I'm like an avoceur.
I don't know where the line is drawn, but to me, certainly from my perspective, you're a connoisseur. Yes, you famously introduced me to Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the first time in my life, and that ended up on my favorite 5 of the year that year.
Yes.
I'm fairly certain. And yeah, I could go on and on. There's plenty that you have brought to the table. I have enjoyed. I will tell you this, though. When it comes to aversions, I did watch a little bit of that Hellraiser trailer, that most recent one. I think I'm out, man. I think I'm way far out. I'm sorry.
I am so far in
I
have
know
come back out and gone back in again. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Oh man,
so
I don't know.
Excited.
Some movies can still do it. Yeah, I'm also in the middle of The Conjuring 2. Man, we'll have words, not at the end of this show, but
Farmiga.
I like being scared. Don't get me wrong. Let's talk about we're all going to the World's Fair, Matt. Before we talk about if it does in fact scare us, what do you have in the way of a synopsis for this thing?
Well, when I do a synopsis, it often goes something like this. We're all going to the World's Fair! Coming at you an hour and 26 minutes. Written and directed by Jane Schoenbrunn, starring Anna Cobb and Michael J. Rogers. Here is your book club for movie synopsis for We're all going to the World's Fair!
Jeez.
A lonely teenager exploring who she is or might be becomes immersed in an MMORPG that might just give her some answers.
Yes, answers. Plenty of which exist in this film, Matt. Some of which we'll create out of thin air, it seems, right now, I bet.
Yes.
Yeah, lots of hand movements today for those watching this.
I'm feeling very Italian. Just for all viewers, there is no video for this.
No, there isn't. Yeah.
It's just
that's
just him and I talking. Yeah. But it's the joke. For anybody who's new. Where did I hear about this? This was a indie darling that popped up last year, I think, or the year before on through the festival circuit is where it hit. And somebody I know, I want to say it was Heather Wixon from dailydead.com.
Sure.
I believe it was her that saw the movie and said she was just blown away by it and really affected by it, thought it was super wonderful. I checked out the trailer for it and went, oh, I don't really know what this is anymore, so sure. And so I just started, it was strictly this movie popped up and I really wanted to see it. And when I sat down and watched it for the first time, I was pretty transfixed by it, man. I was pretty like, and you know, the second time I watched it, I knew what I was watching, you know, I knew what was coming and all that. And it worked a lot better on the second viewing for me too.
I was gonna say, I bet you weren't any less transfixed the second time around.
No, it really works. I'll say this right off the top. Anna Cobb, who plays the main character, is outstanding. That, like, say what you will about whether or not the movie is good, whether or not you like anything about it. The one thing that I think is undeniable is she is fantastic. She is
and
really
in a
good.
way that I'm not sure. Like, I can't think of another. I'm sure. Okay, there probably are. I'm not. It's my fault. In a way that I can't think of anybody else doing, because the movie takes place almost entirely. That's not true either. Largely in front of a computer. Her performance takes place largely in front of a computer. So like webcam shot. You know, who can pull off that for like an entire movie? Maybe it's because there's not that many movies like that. But man, put anybody else in front of that thing, and I have a hard time. Maybe that's part of the thing is that I've never seen Anna Cobb before. You know, if this had been a known, I probably would have been a little bit more difficult. But yeah, she does great, man. You're not wrong.
No, I really like her, and I just I mean, the whole movie revolves around her. She is 98% of the movie is her, and there are really no other, like, you heard me at the top of the show, right? I said there are two people in the movie, Anna Cobb and Michael J. Rogers. There are some people that are on videos that she's watching on the internet, but he is like the only other person that's actually in the movie, I think.
Yeah, no, they are legit people from YouTube, actually. Theo Anthony, Evan Santiago, May, Nike Spheres, Leets, and ASMR content creator Slight Sounds. Those are all the actual content creators, apparently. Yeah, that show up.
Good.
And we'll come back to that. That's a very interesting little segment because, yeah, you're right. For the most part, though, we're looking at Anna. We're looking at Michael or JLB, Michael J. Rogers, who has been around. You know, that guy's been around.
No. I didn't actually look him up. I didn't look at any
since
either.
The 80s.
I mean, he doesn't look like he's super old.
No, he doesn't. But also, he looked vaguely familiar. So I was like, oh, I wonder what I know him from. I don't know him from anything, but I know him from everything because he's been in literally about everything that you can think of.
He was in he was Quan Chi in the Mortal Kombat Legacy series.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you.
That's
it's
awesome.
All there.
I know him. And he was also in Hellraiser Hellseeker. That's not a good one, though. That's why holy crap, I can't believe it. I did not recognize him from
It's crazy, yeah.
From Beyond the Black Rainbow. I can't believe I didn't recognize him from that. Holy wow.
And also does a great job. Not on camera all that much. And we'll get to maybe his thing towards the end.
Had some really interesting conversations with Beth about the perspective on how you can read some of his stuff. Really, really interesting things.
I do think that's one of the bigger questions in the film, especially the very, very ending where he kind of gives it himself and we get to decide if he's telling the truth or not. But before we get that far, just to piggyback on some of what you said, I had never heard of this before. Besides from you, I think, but also didn't look it up. And
smart.
While I had probably also from you seen people speak about it, I had never seen anybody speak badly about it. It was more like anybody that actually saw it loved it, but there were plenty of people that checked out way before that. You know, like, I don't think this doesn't look like my thing or something like that. Not knowing, or maybe, I don't know, what was the marketing like for this thing? Was there...
Minimal at best. It was,
okay, I was gonna say,
really the poster that you can find anywhere, the one that you'll probably use that's got her with the glow in the dark paint. That was pretty much it. And the short little trailer popped out for a little bit of time. I don't even know how long the trailer was out, but I know that it circulated very quickly and then that was it. And it was totally one of those movies that people went, oh, I'm super into this, or...
But how would you explain what this is the other thing. Kind of why I don't blame anybody, but also am thankful that they didn't have some sort of marketing campaign. Because I feel like, I never watched the trailer. I don't know how true it was to the film, but I feel like if they wanted any more eyes on the thing, it would have kind of given rise to a trailer, like one of those super insincere trailers or disingenuous ones that's like, oh, look at this horror movie. Because also, this kind of barely fits in the horror realm as you might define it, or as other people might define it.
I specifically chose this movie because I wanted to, number one, from the writer-director's own mouth, Jane Schoenbrunn, she'll tell you straight off that this is an art movie. It's a full-on art movie. That's her thing. She tricks everybody into thinking it's this or that, but she's like, it's my art movie. I did this for this. But it's also, because it's not just a straightforward horror movie, it has a couple of little elements to it, but it's this coming of age drama thing that also, when you find out a little bit more about the creator, puts another spin on it, which I didn't know until I saw it the second time. And that changed my perspective on the movie in a great deal, you know?
Well, the movie very purposefully deals with kind of two different worlds, in I think several different ways. But yeah, the two different worlds you're probably referring to is that Jane Schoenberg is a transgender woman, correct?
Yeah.
I believe. And she's said that this movie is largely about, well, I guess not largely, but it certainly is one of the ways that she dealt with or wanted to express her experience as far as that goes. So yeah, I'm not having that experience. I don't know how much of that I picked up on. You know, this isn't like a in your face telling of that type of story or anything like that. You know, like Anna herself isn't transgender or anything like that the movie tells us, you know, but she is dealing with two different worlds. She is dealing with, and this seems like a cop-out. This seems like too easy of a dichotomy, but she is dealing with kind of reality and not reality, whatever, or unreality, maybe.
Sure.
And we can define that a little bit more, I guess, as we go. where do we go?
Well,
How do we start?
I mean, okay, so yeah, here the premise of this movie is maybe a little hard to understand, even with the synopsis. But in general, the movie is like we said, it's a pretty solitary movie about this girl who is starting off the movie we're right into the the laptop camera, and she is trying to start her video to say that she's going to take part in one of those, internet viral games. Think about it like the what is it? The one where people were dropping water on each other's head for ALS or whatever, like
right,
that
like
kind
the
of thing.
ice bucket challenge or something.
Yes.
It's somewhere in between that and an ARG, although I guess the ARG part isn't necessarily as in your face until later on. But yeah, I think
right. Well, so that's, I think that's another. This has so many layers to it, because that's another question altogether. Does she know? Because at the end she says she doesn't, but then does she know what she's doing? Like, that's a whole part of this.
There's no answer in that performance, which is why it's so fantastic. But also, because. Yeah, we're okay. We're going. We'll get there.
So she jumps in and decides, she's trying to make this video. She's trying to start the hey everybody, and she does it a couple times, and she finally says, I'm going to take the World's Fair challenge, and I'm going to record what happens, if I start feeling any changes. And she takes the challenge, which is saying, I want to go to the World's Fair 3 times, and then cutting yourself and smearing the blood on your laptop screen. That's and then that's it to end.
There's like a Strobe video after that.
Oh,
she
that's right.
Through
and the video, and they have to watch the Strobe video that has some sounds to it and all that. And then the rest of the movie is essentially, from our perspective, trying to figure out whether or not she is actually being affected. Is she doing this for attention? Who's attention is she trying to get? So there's a whole mess of things going on there. And then about halfway through the movie, maybe even less than that, a character named JLB tries to contact her through video, saying that she's in danger and that the World's Fair is hurting her.
Just keep posting videos, he says, so I can monitor your progress.
Which is, again, another one of those brilliant pieces of is he promoting her to keep playing the game, or does he actually want, does he want her to get hurt, or does he want to save her? That's another dichotomy, another juxtaposition in what could be going on there. What are his motives, which, again, when we get to the end, are questionable at best. And so then it becomes a thing between her posting and him monitoring her and trying to figure out, communicate with her a little bit. And all the while, she is just trying to kind of figure out who she is and what's going on in her life.
And I think people might be tempted to kind of view him as the big bad almost. And certainly that's one takeaway.
I have certainly made it sound that way, but there is, I would honestly say, and I'm sorry before I interrupt you, but there really isn't an antagonist of
is not
any, the antagonist is certainly in her head, at best. It's the struggle of what she's trying to go through. That's the antagonist.
Yeah. Know? Okay. There you go. Yeah. The word I had in my notes was decentralized. There doesn't seem to be any actual nexus, that is even that threatening or again, monstrous. Maybe actually no, there's certainly a monstrosity, but yeah, it's definitely not him. It's not JLB. He's not, well, again, yes, we'll question some of his motives and some of his statements, but you never got the feeling that he even really wanted her to experience that much harm. Yes, the video begins, the World's Fair challenge begins with her sticking her thumb on camera, which I'm not even sure how they did that, honestly. So close and with an actual, it looks like she does it.
She may have done it
on purpose. I can't imagine, but that's the only blood, in fact, that we see really in the entire movie.
There are only actually like when you talk about the general horror kind of scary thing, there's only 3 things. There's the first video with the melting face.
Okay, I want to talk about that. That is one of my favorite parts of the film. So
amazing.
I think about the same time that you are, I think, talking about JLB showing up, we see some of the first actual, maybe horror-like images, right?
Yeah.
We see this kid that we've already seen a clip of before. She was watching a video of him on her computer. He's in a bathroom through a doorway. Lots of doorways, actually, which I really liked.
I want to talk about that too.
Okay, the doorways?
No, that particular kid.
I don't have a final thought on the doorways, but it made me think of the vertical aspect ratio more than once. I thought they might be playing with. Yeah, I don't know how. So there's an unfinished thought for you. Somebody work on that. But this kid in the bathroom.
Producer.
Do we have one of those? Oh, it's me. It's not going to get done. They show a close up on his arm, and he starts pulling tickets out of like a scab on his arm. And then we see another guy that literally like a monster comes out of the laptop. First of all, we get to see the screen with the blood on the screen with the strobe video going, and then he gets grabbed by somebody. So that's one of my favorite moments in the film, because it's this really fun little sleight of hand where if you're not really paying attention to point of view or the source, maybe you might be tempted to think that that's the next development in the film, because also it comes at just about that moment where it might be in any other film, right? It's just after the first act, stuff is about to start happening. We're about to start seeing the first little bits of the monster, and we get these videos that look like the next step in this movie, but are not. They are just other YouTube videos. They are people riding the wave of the World's Fair,
such a swerve,
viralness or whatever. Yeah, and it had me actually for a second too. I'm like, okay, I see, but that's all we get of that. And none of that ever happens when Anna is on camera. Like none of, because eventually you I can realize
that's not true. We do get one moment of her on camera that's like the uber creepy, and it's when she goes to bed and she puts her hand out and then slowly pulls her entire body over, and she's got
that is a good creepy moment.
That was an amazing. Okay, so I want to talk about
but it's not like a hand coming out of a laptop or anything
not at
like
all.
that. I'm just saying we don't get anything that fantastic while Anna is on screen, because that's quote unquote real life, right? So you start, that's where the tension started to come in for me. I'm like, oh, if something actually happens when Anna's on screen, like then we've got something to worry about. But it treads that line very artfully. And I did love that moment where it kind of swerves and does this neat little sleight of hand with those internet videos, and you're like, all right, and you're like, oh wait, no, you got me.
so we can actually, I think, kind of. This is a okay. So I have so many things to say, but which is so funny because it's like this movie it's an hour and 25 minutes. It feel like it works every minute of that, but it's hard to talk about with that, like it, without just going over all the little things that she does, because the movie ultimately ends up being a bunch of little things that build up to this kind of ending. So I kind of want to jump to the ending with JLB and what we get to because I want to talk about some of those other specifics, like in particular the one kid in the bathroom, because I think all right.
When you say ending in JLB, are we talking about when he goes out of game?
I'm talking about the actual, So like the whole kind of basic end of the movie. Let's get into that.
Starting with when he goes out of game?
Or... Sure.
Okay. All right. But you want to talk about the kid in the bathroom. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, it's all gonna tie in, but we have to explain the ending before I tie that in.
Okay.
Towards the end, he's still sending videos trying to get her to talk to him. They've Skyped a couple times. He Skypes with her one last time, saying that he's super concerned for her, and he wants to talk to her out of game, and she kind of doesn't really understand that it's a game. She's like, "What do you mean out of game? I don't."
She doesn't even know the term MMORPG.
Right.
She's unfamiliar with that.
Or
supposedly.
At least she claims to be. Right. Exactly. But she's like, I didn't know it's not a game. And then he professes this serious like concern for her are you're really going to hurt yourself? And she loses
in one of her videos, she does talk about killing herself or killing her father.
Yes, because she also goes out in one of the videos and she sleepwalks, or maybe it's not in the video, but we see she sleepwalks out into their garage, and she pulls out his gun, his hunting rifle, and stares at it, and then
that's
puts
pretty
it away.
early on, actually. That's like first act. She doesn't mention like killing herself or him until I think she's walking out into a New Year's Eve thing, a block party. I believe.
Yeah. So it's really close, because it's really close to that. But it's it's a Chekhov's gun thing. If you're going to show the gun, it better go off. But it doesn't go off. Gun. Okay. So it's not. It's somebody else's gun. It's Jeremy's gun.
Sorry, please.
No. But it's fine. Because they just don't. She can't deal with it. Like, she doesn't want to be parented by him. She doesn't want to listen to him for whatever reason. She loses it. She screams at him and says, "This is all game." Casey, which is what her name is in the movie, by the way. We haven't said it like once. Her name is Casey. Right. She finally says, "Casey's not even my real name," and then hangs up. And JLB is left stunned. He tries to Skype her a couple times. She won't answer. He figures out that he's been blocked.
Whoa, you're moving past. So yeah, the last word she says to him via chat, which through Skype, actually, they name drop Skype. Like, they got the Skype license for this thing. I
or they just took it and said, "Screw it, go."
Well, I mean, for the festival circuit, maybe, but after wide release, I'm sure. Yeah. Anyway, she calls him a pedophile.
She calls him a
last
pedophile.
Word she says.
Yes.
And that sets him off. Like that. Like, he is not.
Yes. True. Good.
Happy about that. He does not take it in stride. He does not take it like a non-pedophile might take it. Like, oh, that's pretty hurtful. He's ruffled by it.
He is ruffled by it. Yes.
Yeah.
So this kind of leads to, again, him trying to communicate with her, and then the last bit of the movie is actually him giving a voiceover saying that a year later he met her in New York. He won't really talk about what they said because whatever, but that she's fine, she's living, and everything's fine. All right.
And he's narrating this into his computer as he records it.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so a couple things. Number one, Beth and I were having this conversation about whether or not, number one, was he a pedophile, and number two, was he involved in any other way? Like, he seemed to know about the game. He was familiar with it. He seemed to understand what if it was a game. Like, whatever this is, he's clearly been involved for a while.
Yeah, there's no questions as to his belief as far as the game stuff goes. Like, I didn't ever doubt that he did fear for her and wanted to speak out of game, and everything before that was just the game he created. Like, right? I don't know.
Could be. But, okay, so here's the thing. So, okay, there's a couple. He is, throughout the entire movie, also shown to be alone in a large house. He has a maid. That's the only other person I think we see, like, as a real person in the movie, in the background. He never speaks to her. And that he is also clearly, reaching out and going through some stuff. One of the implications in the videos is that one kid in the bathroom kills himself. He talks about it, and then the next video he brings it up further, and it's like he's gotten worse. And Beth and I were kind of positing maybe JLB is so concerned because his kid killed himself, and that's why, because of this game, and that's why and again, there is nothing outright connecting this. This is all very much a theoretical, like, positing possibilities based on this world. So I think one read is that he really was distraught, and he was so upset because his child had killed himself because of the game, and he really wanted to stop Casey from hurting herself.
And you think Bathroom Kid might be his child?
So we were kind of positing Bathroom Kid seems like maybe maybe kind of the way it was filmed and the way that all it was, like, you again, there's nothing pointing to that. It's just headcanon. That's all. It's
yeah, but I would
thoughts.
say there's actually more support within the film for that not being the case. Because again, I think that video, I think Bathroom Kid was a construct. It was a content creator making a video with the World's Fair stuff as background or as narrative device.
Sure.
Right. So yeah, given that read, I don't think it's his kid at all.
Well,
I don't even know.
Sure.
Yeah, obviously, if somebody has committed suicide because of the World's Fair or whatnot, we don't even know how exactly viral it is.
Well,
we know that Anna's videos are getting 13, 14 views, which more than I get on my channel. So I'm not even like saying that's
you're not doing the World's
not
Fair.
that much, but it's not like viral numbers, So also, we don't see him interacting with anybody else. Like how many other people are playing this game? He does seem to be spending most of his time on her. That's maybe a little bit more fishy because again, it's all we see in the movie. A movie that shows us more than that is by definition increasing its scope to something different. But yeah, I don't buy the suicide one.
Again, it's an interesting read on it. There's also we can also easily read that he is in fact a pedophile and that he is seriously looking for her, and that at the end of the movie maybe he did find her. She's probably not okay.
Okay, well, so this is the thing. Like I do think because calling him a pedophile riled him up so much. Like, I don't know if he's out and out to catch a predator, like trying to arrange a meeting so he can whatever. But I do think he himself has dealt with those thoughts or those criticisms or to a point. Again, there's that old saying, which might not be an old saying, but hit pigeons flutter. Like you throw I used to think it was a rock, but I think it was a piece of bread. You throw a piece of bread into a group of pigeons. The pigeons that flutter are the ones that got hit by that piece of bread or however it goes. He was hit by that pedophile piece of bread, and it really got him going. So I don't know if that means he's out and out a bad actor, but certainly
is unleavened bread like pedophile bread because it hasn't risen, like it hasn't.
I don't know. But then to mention that this is the other thing. So the movie does end with him narrating that thing, that happy ending almost into the movie. I 1,000,000% don't believe that happened.
Right.
I don't think that happened for a second because number one, he is at the very least a creator. He's a creative. He created that game. I don't know, developer, whatever you want to say. I do not think that actually happened. I think that's just what he is saying happened by way of his creation or creative tendencies. Again, this movie, in fact, I've got it now. This movie deals with two worlds, one of which is real, I guess, if anything is real. And don't let me forget about the strange loop theory, because I loved that. But then the other is construct. Like, what's construct? Like, what is unreal in this movie? That strange loop thing, when he does go out of game, he mentions that, and she has heard of it. And I think it's actually part of the game too. But she's like, yeah, I've heard about that. This video is a fake, but so is all of this. Like that is the strange loop theory, right? Sure, this is fake, but isn't everything?
Is it right?
And it's some brilliant stuff. It's brilliantly written. Yeah, and I don't know if I've said this enough yet, but I loved it. It was brilliantly written.
I'm so
brilliantly
glad.
Performed.
That's great.
An amazing film. You really need to check it out. We've ruined all of it at this point, but not really.
Not really. It's like you'll know the story, but seriously, going into it the second time again, because I didn't know that Jane Schoenbrunn was trans, so that was totally a thing. And then watching the movie, that's a different perspective. You can easily, even though you may not get the experiences, but you can certainly see a struggle to figure out how to explain things.
Oh yeah. Again, what's construct and what's real,
and the entire concept of gender and sex being constructs and all that stuff and whatnot. And
yeah, I feel like I interrupted. I feel like you were headed somewhere else with Suicide Bathroom Boy and towards the end of the movie.
Oh, it doesn't matter anymore. I think we've nailed it shut.
No way. Did you have another out? Did you want to go out of movie again?
I've never wanted to go out of movie in my life, and I will never do it in my life. I will only live in the movies. You can find me currently in Caddyshack 2.
The spiritual successor, or no, I guess spiritual predecessor to We're All Going to the World's Fair.
That's right. It starts with Jackie Mason as Jack Hartoonian, and it ends with Casey going to the World's Fair.
Oh man, Jack K. Mason.
Jack K.
I'm in the middle of rewatching 30 Rock, and there are so many jokes. It is impossible to assimilate them all in a single viewing. But I'm sorry, that couldn't have been more. That was out of movie.
I will say, I think, bar none, and you and I have probably had this conversation a million times, but I'll say bar none, the character that has the least amount of screen time but the most amount of jokes, because literally every single word out of his mouth is perfect, is Dr. Spichemin.
Oh, okay. I was saying it's got to be either Tracy or Dr. Spichemin.
Yeah. It's Dr. Spichemin. He has the least amount of screen time that is maximized for every single word he says. Is
so good. When he popped up on screen, my daughter, because this is one of the reasons we're watching it, because my daughter has never seen it, but she's like, where do I know him from? I'm like, where do you not know him from? Number one, you probably know him from Hot Rod, but also everywhere else, of course. Yeah. So Chris Parnell. We're All Going to the World's Fair, an incredible movie that everybody should watch. Matt, do you have anything else you wanted to say about it before I sidetrack us again?
I do not. I really like this movie. I think that it's a really inventive, well shot for the way it's being put together. Like it's a solid movie, man. Like for a little indie film. And look, if it's good enough for David Lowery, I mean, it's good enough for me.
Oh yeah, I can see what he saw in this. Yeah,
right?
Certainly. It seems like his bag. Yeah.
I again, something else where like the first time I watched it, didn't even notice his name. Second, like after I realized, oh, yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I get it.
And speaking of how it's shot, don't sleep on, like, yes, webcam stuff, but it's all super purposeful. Like I mentioned, those moments where they are videos, like content videos made for YouTube, those are shot differently. You know, though there are clues in there, it's not completely inscrutable, which again is a word I'm only using because Tracy Jordan just got mad because somebody criticized his license plates as inscrutable. But it's not. And I think a repeat viewing would be even more rewarding because, yeah, the moments because Anna is dealing with some mental issues. Like that's the game or not, she is. Or again, she's every bit the performer. Like Casey is every bit the performer that Anna is. Who knows? Again, what's real and what's not.
Constructs.
But upon rewatch, it's a little less art filmy, in fact, because you want to watch this. By the end, you might be like, "What did I just watch?" But once you kind of figure, it's so plain as day when you get the key that it's fantastic that it operates on all of those different levels. It's hard to explain.
I freaking love it when I nail movies like
you
this.
Nail it.
Like this is a good one.
And you have 33.5 starred. Nailed it this time around, my friend.
Out of 30. It's that good.
Go check it out. I don't think we really spoiled any of it. You can, like I said, really watch it again. So go do that. Everybody, we're all going to the World's Fair. Everybody this time now. Matt, bookclubformovies.com, podcast Twitter. Again, Patreon, please, if you can. I will re-verify that you can subscribe for $1 under the lowest tier if you wish. I'll do that right now. But until then, what are we doing next week? I never know. You always do.
I do. Matt. I sure do. Number one, I'm going to make it so easy on you. It's only one word. You can't even screw the title up of the movie. It's a single word.
Thank you. Boy.
So
doesn't take much.
No, this is a newer film, debuted on Shudder a couple of weeks ago. It actually has somebody you'll know, which is great. His name is J.K. Simmons.
You told me about this one. I do know this one. Okay.
I did. I told you about this, but you have not watched it. It also stars
no, certainly not.
Ryan Quanten. It is called Glorious. It is streaming on Shudder right now. You can watch it. It is delightful, and we will talk about it in a week.
Okay, excellent. Can't wait.
Glorious.
I've vowed to make all of my rest of the show picks also wieners. Do you have any additional movies, wieners or otherwise, that you wish to talk about this week for the rest of the show?
Well, did you watch A Nightmare on Elm Street, the remake?
I did not. I did say that might be on the list this year, but I didn't. Not yet. Sorry, no.
Well, I did.
Did you?
And I refuse to talk to you about it.
Yeah, do you want to wait until I have... I'll watch it this week. How about that? Promises,
yeah, that's fine.
Promises.
I will talk about... yes, I watched... So...
Monster Squad?
Tubi... if for anybody who doesn't know what Tubi is an app. It's a streaming app.
Yeah.
Download
Tubi,
it.
Quibi, GB.
Yeah, except
Booby.
this one actually has movies, and it's free. They've got ads, but they're all uncut movies, so that's cool. And I have found that this Tubi has one of the best selections of horror, just in general, which is great. Also, it kind of is like the streaming video to my childhood, where so many of the movies that I would turn on over the weekends or during the summer or throughout the evening are just there. Like the really weird sci-fi movies that and junk that was made for TV, that all that stuff is there.
Huh.
One of those movies that I had not seen in forever, and I freaking love it. And I almost put it on the list for Halloween this year, but I did not. I am going to recommend it, though. It's called Class of 1999. This movie stars Stacy Keach, Malcolm McDowell, which, I mean, that should be gnugh. But then it also has the dude who played Eyeball in Stand By Me, and who also has the gnarliest death in Nightmare on Elm Street 3 when he gets his veins pulled out and he's puppeteered by Freddy. It's the coolest part.
Love the poster here.
Class of 99. So Class of 1999 is a ridiculous horror movie that popped, or not even a horror movie. It's like an action movie that came out in the early 90s. And the plot, it has Pam Grier in it too, by the way. Amazing.
Sure. Tracy Lind.
The entire
Patrick Kilpatrick.
He had a rough childhood.
Gotta look up if that's his real name.
Class of 1999 is about a future inner city kind of school that has been taken over by punks, and that basically the entire area is taken over by gangs. And the school is like a place where the gangs are not supposed to fight. There's actual like fences, and they've got security guards with guns, and they've got metal detectors and all that. But everybody still goofs off in there. So the principal, played by Malcolm McDowell, decides to engage Stacy Keach to bring in 3 military robots that have been programmed to teach lessons. It is everything you think it is and better. The movie, number one, largely bloodless, but towards the end you get a couple of really good gore spots. It is totally a ridiculous, like Terminator-esque. One of the guys, gets his arm ripped off and he's like, "Hey, that was my arm. I'm a robot." It's one of those things. Very funny, very good. Pam Grier's delightful. Okay.
Not to turn this back to Patrick Kilpatrick again, but
yeah, his weird bald head.
He has one of the longest, quote, mini bios on IMDb I've ever seen that begins with the words, quote, "one of the finest screen television character actors of his generation, comma," and goes on for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 more paragraphs, only to be concluded by IMDb mini biography by Patrick Kilpatrick.
He just wants you to know.
Oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Follow-up question.
Yes.
Does this have anything to do with Class of 1984?
It does not. Although I do love Class of 1984. Class of 1984 was a trauma film that's Class of Nukem High. Sorry. Class of 1984 is...
I mean, judging by what I can see so far, you might not be that far off, but...
It wasn't, but that wasn't, it was not a...
I've got to look these all up now because, there's also a History Repeats Itself, Class of 1984. Looks like a sequel. Did you know there's a sequel to Class of 1999?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
So Class of 1984 was written by the guy who did the Monster Squad, actually, if I remember correctly. He did
there it is. I knew it figured into this somehow.
Maybe it was he did Fright Night. He didn't do Monster Squads. That was the other guy. It was the guy who did Fright Night, though, Tom Holland. And then it also has...
Tom Holland.
Yeah, who, by the way, look up the name. You'll know it.
Was not aware there were two of them. Okay.
Yeah. Also had Michael J. Fox in it, Class of 1984.
It's on the list.
It's not great, but it's awesome. I have it on Blu-ray.
It's not great. It's awesome. Have it on Blu-ray. Excellent. What can you tell me about Class of 1999 2? The Substitute.
The Substitute. Okay, so here's what I remember. Class of 1999 Part 2 had Sasha Mitchell, who was at this like weird level of fame because he was the goofy brother on Step by Step, the like stupid stoner surfer brother.
Sure was.
So people really liked him, and he was actually a kickboxer, like he was actually a fighter and stuff. So like he had made a couple of action movies, and then it came out that he kickboxed his wife's stomach, and there was a whole bunch of violence that was domestic, and nobody liked him anymore.
Fair.
Yeah.
Also featuring Nick Cassavetes, who went on to do, I think I almost talked about John Q at some point.
John Cassavetes' younger son.
Excellent. The reason I'm taking so long is because we have the time and I don't care. So
no, that's fine. Also, Class of 1999 has, and I can never remember the guy's name, but it was the kid who played Homer in Near Dark. Who was like the oldest of the vampires, but was stuck in the kid's body.
Oh.
And he was in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know.
He was in a bunch of movies, and then later on he wrote the Final Girls movie and a couple of other things. Yeah, it's really weird. Class of 1999, though. Totally go check it out on Tubi. It's free. It's rad. It's worth your time.
Excellent. You've seen this. Oh, you've seen both of my movies. Do you want a callback, a reappraisal, or do you want something a little more recent first?
Ooh, give me the reappraisal first.
So we finished Cloverfield. I think I said I was in the middle of that with my daughter, who, when we stopped in the middle and she had her choice of going back to watch a day later or whatever it was, any number of other 3 things we're in the middle of, she chose Cloverfield. So I think she was quite enjoying the movie.
Makes sense.
For the longest time, and I probably said this on this show, didn't think much about Cloverfield, and it was largely because of the people. Like, I just remember them being so unlikable and so douchey, and maybe not being able to get over that in any appreciable form. I think Cloverfield is, upon rewatching, something close to a masterpiece of found footage.
I felt very similar to you.
I mean,
and then I had a rewatch also very recently, and I kind of agree with you.
Oh, okay. I was saying you're going the opposite way.
So good. It's just so freaking good, man.
Well, it's no Blair Witch, like, don't get me wrong, but in the way that Blair Witch was so lo-fi that it kind of all worked for it, again, in a masterpiece-like way. Like, this is just about the next level, in fact, maybe the pinnacle of what that found footage stuff turned into, because it doesn't look like found footage at all. Like, it looks gorgeous, and all of the special effects that have been worked into it are pretty darn seamless still.
Yeah.
Like, I remember thinking or not thinking anything of them back then, but now watching them with an eye towards what's happened since, still hold up. Like, it's kind of crazy, especially if you think about, the shaky cam found footage stuff. Like, it's the amount of work that they must have had to put into that to make it look as good as it does, and yet as still like found footage cam work.
Right.
That it does. It's insane. Like, I don't know how you do that.
No, it's nuts, man. But that was what Matt, was that Matt Reeves?
Yeah, Matt Reeves.
Yeah, that was
also.
That was the Batman's Matt Reeves.
The Batman's Matt Reeves, which I don't know. I don't have a handle on him as a director still, I would say, especially between the Batman and a found footage film.
I think you have a perfect understanding.
Okay, I don't know where this is going to come back in because the internet just died and we had to restart some stuff. But I will say, as far as the people go in Cloverfield, still douchebags. But
I mean, TJ Miller, come on.
Yeah, on the camera, which also, do they try and justify why he won't put down the camera at any point? No. Do they try a little bit? No. In no substantial way do they try to be like, this is why somebody needs to always be. Yeah.
Nope.
The other movie I have, you've also seen, but if you have another, we can go back and forth.
I'm good. Everything I've got, I'm saving right now. I don't have any horror movies to.
You're saving all your love for.
That's right.
Day Shift. I finally watched Day Shift.
Well, we're there. It is. All right. You finally watched Day Shift. How'd you like it?
Seamless. It is extremely okay.
It is extremely okay. but.
Oh, there's a but. There's plenty of buts. Yeah, no.
It's the Nazarian brothers.
Yes, the Nazarian brothers were fantastic. Also, do you know why Scott Adkins is one of the Nazarian brothers?
Well, I'm guessing it's because the guy who directed it is also one of the... he was a stunt dude.
Yeah, so the guy who directed it, J.J. Perry, is a stunt dude. This is his first directed movie, but he's been around forever. He's a member of 8711 or 87 North back in the day. Him and founding member David Leitch are pretty big. David Leitch, you might have heard from most recently Bullet Train, but also Atomic Blonde, Deadpool 2, Hobbs and Shaw. So he's been out there a little bit more. But yeah, 8711 is the studio that does all the action for like John Wick's and all that stuff. So they are very fun to watch in just about any. In fact, this is how far down the rabbit hole I might be. I might go see movies just for 8711 at this point, because Day Shift is pretty much that too. Like, if you want some pretty good action out of nowhere, like Day Shift is kind of the epitome. Like during July Kwando, we would talk about hopefully never watching a movie just to see the action sequences and kind of suffer through the rest in between. Day Shift is a little bit of that. Like it's more fantastic action with some, again, extremely okay middle parts stringing it all together. If I could go on even more of a side note, though,
I think
check out the slate for 8711. They have a movie based on My Friend Pedro coming up, the Devolver game.
Awesome.
Nobody 2 Kung Fu.
Yeah, baby. More Odenkirk.
And The Fall Guy. Yes, based on the 1980s TV show Fall Guy.
You know, Beth and I have talked about how like we were lamenting all these weird 80s shows, like the ones that can't be remade, the ones that shouldn't be, and then we were like, what about Fall Guy?
Fall Guy, man. I have such a fondness for it and remember none of it. I remember when I was a kid watching the intro, after which I would probably check out and not understand anything else of the show.
Right.
But that intro where he's like hanging from a helicopter or a street sign or whatever it was, like I would religiously tune in for that intro. So can't wait for the movie. Side note, you really want to have some fun, go to 8711's website, and they have a previs section where it shows, and Chad Stahelski, John Wick, is huge. And he will previs all of the action scenes to absolute death, which is part of the reason they look so darn good in John Wick.
Perfect,
just,
yeah.
Like to the T, yeah. But if you want to have a fun little exercise, go check out their previs section, and they will put kind of their previs run-throughs or walkthroughs right next to the final product. And while I think it does showcase their talent, absolutely, it's also a fun little education when it comes to how much you really can do with an actor instead of a martial artist or a stuntman, which all reports are that Atomic Blonde has some fantastic action in it.
It does.
But you watch that side to side with Charlize Theron and like somebody from actually 8711 going through the movements, and you're like, what? Like the 8711 stuff is so much better.
Sure. Atomic Blonde is awesome. That's a cool movie.
That, like I said, all reports are that it came out great, but yeah. But yes, everything else about Day Shift is again extremely okay in the way that just that kind of nothing is earned. Threads are dropped. It just doesn't seem like anybody cared that much about that aspect of it. Like there's this whole thing because he's fighting vampires, but then Dave Franco turns into a vampire, but is like on their side. So I'm like, oh, like vampires aren't just out and out evil. Like they don't ever take the time to really get into the politics of that, which again, why would you for maybe a B vampire movie? But it's kind of a big
you want to
thing
know
in the middle of
you want to know the politics of vamping. The politics of feeling good.
Song. It is. It's so good. That's all I got. Those are the
politics of vamping.
Day Shift is probably more of an action movie than even a Halloweener, but vampires, so whatever. But that's all I
liked it. It's fine. It definitely though, like that movie comes out. And I do want sequels to that movie, but I want sequels with the Nazarian brothers, not with like.
I want a Nazarian Brothers movie. Yeah, do it. Go.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you have to assume that's on the like everybody when that movie dropped, everybody basically called that out. They were like, "That's the best sequence."
They're like, "This is the one of the funnest." Again, the action sequences are all very good. Like each one of them, they are incredibly solid, physical. Yeah, they're super good. They're inventive. They're gross, in some ways.
And actually, I really love. Yeah. I really like the use of gymnasts for the vampires, so that they had all sorts of weird maneuvers that look CG. Contortionists. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of stuff that looks CG, but then is not.
Yeah. They have a lot of. One of their favorite tricks was all of the guns very high powered in this, but when they get knocked back, they'll like double over, like they almost do the it was actually Heidi Moneymaker in the Avengers, but the scene where Black Widow like flips back in the chair, like throws herself back and then flips forward immediately after.
Yes, yeah.
Almost some of that, except they just keep doubling over until they snap in half type stuff. But yeah.
And they really did kill some people when they were doing that. So.
Wouldn't be surprised. They killed themselves for the film, which is always the rough part about saying that it's extremely okay. But hey, the action is fantastic. So if you've seen any of those, or you yourself have some wieners in mind that you'd like to recommend to us or talk about, as you can probably tell, you can just throw one into the mix here and we'll give it a good 5 minutes, whether we want to or not. I bet you Matt's heard of it. Let's put it that way.
We'll give it a tight 5.
So if you got any of those, let us know at podcast@bookclubformovies.com or Facebook or Twitter or Patreon, where you'll be getting quite a bit of extras coming up quick. I've got the podcast with my wife and daughter about all the movies we just watched for August. They have about 20 minutes left on Somewhere in Time, and then they'll be all caught up. Beauty. And then we can talk about that. Also, we're going to, if you're wondering what some of that's like, we're going to, if it's okay with you, Matt, but we talked about it and you didn't object. So I think make public our bonus pod that we did last Octoberween with my daughter concerning the Blair Witch Project. So for those of you who don't remember, I completely lied to my daughter, bold-faced, repeatedly, that the Blair Witch Project was real. I showed her the fake documentary that came out on like the Sci-Fi Channel or whatever around that time that also talks about it as if it were real. And then we watched the Blair Witch Project as if it were real. And then we had a podcast where we, I believe on air, informed her that it wasn't.
Correct.
Yes. Okay. So it's been a while since I listened to that show, but it can be something that you listen to here shortly when we release it out into the wild. So if you're curious what the Patreon bonuses look like, there's a little taste for you. But go to Patreon, see what you can do, and we'll see what we can do next week with Glorious.
Glorious.
You can tell the longer this goes on, the farther out of sync we're becoming until a disconnection is imminent. So, goodbye.
Bye!